The Oracl Network.
Hi, I'm Brad Shreve, and I'm the host of Queer Writers of Crime, the podcast where I interview LGBTQ authors of mystery, suspense, and thriller novels. Do you think all queer novels are literary works about coming out or the AIDS crisis? Or are they all about romance and erotica? I did. Hell, I like erotica as much as anyone, but it's not all I want to read. Now I know there's more and I want to share it. Not only do queer crime novels exist, there's so many they have a special category on Amazon. Don't listen if you want to hear about each writer's techniques, when or how they write. There's plenty of other podcasts that do that. I dig into each author's personal lives and what makes them tick. Usually I can't help myself when we steer off again into another conversation about sex and mysteries, how much is too much and how much is too little. It's Queer Writers of Crime and available each week everywhere you listen to podcasts.
Hey, Rainbow Warriors. This is my disclaimer. Beyond the Rainbow is a true crime podcast. It's not suitable for young children, and maybe not even for some adults. I tend to swear like a sailor, and I'm kind of proud of that. Listener discretion is advised. Hey there, Rainbow Warriors. Welcome to Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBT. I'm your host, CJ. The other day, I was walking my dog Nilla at the park. I was lost in my thoughts. I was thinking about the story that I want to share with you this episode, and how hard it must be for a young trans person, or any trans person. Then I looked up, and I saw this tallish woman walking towards me. By her gait, I thought, she could be a lesbian. So I smiled, and I noticed that she was wearing a green camo sweat jacket. She smiled back, and we both speak at the same time and say the same thing. Hi, how are you? At this time, I notice what her baseball cap says. It says the words Trump 2024 embroidered in American flag print. I made sure I was walking tall and proud as I passed her wearing my Live Your Truth across a rainbow heart shirt. After passing her, I rolled my eyes thinking, and this is why I cringe when I see American flags. After the walk, I was driving out of the parking lot, and I saw her stretching at her truck. Her truck had this huge-ass American flag decal across the back window. In my head, I screamed, "No! Trump doesn't own American flags." It's ridiculous for me to feel this dread when I see one. His campaign needs to adopt an orange flag. I'm not partial to the color orange. It'd be more fitting for him anyway. He is not the symbol of American beliefs of freedom. He's an anti-American freedom symbol. So once again, I plead with you. How can those of us who believe in freedom for everyone reclaim our flag? I'll be brainstorming, and if you have any ideas, please let me know. And this is the last episode of Season 4. As you might have been able to guess, I start a new season every 15 episodes. And as a celebration of another season down, and for the new one that's going to be starting, and as a way to give back to my loyal listeners, I have some giveaways. I have stickers, magnets, and keychains. Hit me up on the socials or email me through my website. All who do, I'm going to put your name on a wheel, and I'll give the wheel a spin, and I'll select a bunch of winners for free prizes. Come on, who doesn't love free shit? In the upcoming Season 5, I hope to include more collaboration episodes with other podcasters and have more interviews. If you have a case suggestion that I haven't done, but you would like to hear it, let me know. You can reach me on Facebook at Beyond the Rainbow Pod. I'm on Instagram at Beyond the Rainbow Pod or Rainbow Crimes 12, and I'm on Twitter at Rainbow Crimes. You can also email me from my website at beyondtherainbowpodcast.com. On the website, I have a list of all of my episodes so far. I have a listener's questions column. Let me know if you have any personal questions for me. And there's an extensive list of missing but not forgotten LGBTQ people. This episode's missing but not forgotten LGBTQ person is a cold case, and it's the sister of a woman named Dylan that I used to hang out with sometimes. In fact, because of her sister's disappearance, Dylan became a search and rescue worker. Who would have thought the same family would have two lesbian sisters? I guess it's not unheard of, though. Catherine Rebecca La Madrid's missing case is pretty cold. Kathy was last seen in the Fort Bragg area of California on December 17, 2004. She was crossing the Noyo Bridge around 1:30 p.m. Kathy was never heard from again after that. It seems that the month before her disappearance, Kathy had been in a pretty bad car accident, and it might have led to some head trauma. She may have even suffered a latent amnesia. There were possible sightings of Kathy in the Fort Bragg area for the next several weeks. Months after, there were possible sightings of Kathy in UKEA, California, and the towns of Roseburg and Myrtle Creek, Oregon. Kathy was a youthful 40 years old when she disappeared. She's white and has blonde hair, but it could be dyed any color, really. She likes to wear her hair short. She wears glasses or contacts. She stands 5'9" and weighed around 150 pounds when last seen. She has bluish hazel eyes, and she has a pierced left ear, and also a tattoo of a ring around one of her fingers. For a more detailed physical description and actual pictures of what she looked like at the time that she went missing, please check out my website. Okay, Rainbow Warriors, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a minute. Unless, of course, you're driving, because if you're driving, that would just be bad. But if you're not driving, close your eyes and think of something that makes you feel physically uncomfortable to the point that your body aches. What comes up for me is the restless leg syndrome I sometimes get at night, or the achy I feel in my joints sometimes when it's cold or rainy outside. Now imagine having to live like that forever, without any medicine or any type of relief to ease the pain and discomfort. That's what I believe it must be like to live in the wrong body. And I don't mean the wrong body because you need to lose weight or gain weight. I mean the wrong gender. Add the stigma of societal norms, blue is for boys, pink is for girls, to the mix, and that increases the discomfort level tenfold. UKEA Davis was 15 years old and just beginning her transitioning from living as a male to living as a female. She lived with her godmother, who did not approve of her transitioning to female. As I was reading that, I thought, tough titties, bitch, UKEA's got to live her truth. But I guess UKEA just struggled on with her godmother, who obviously wasn't a fairy godmother. Nevertheless, she loved UKEA. At school on a daily, UKEA would be teased, harassed. She had bricks thrown at her, and she was beat up for being gay. But UKEA knew she wasn't gay. Yeah, she liked boys, but she wasn't gay. Inside, UKEA was a girl. She was just born in the wrong body with the wrong parts. UKEA found her support at the Sexual Minority Youth Action League in Washington, D.C. Its acronym is SMYAL, and to say it, it's SMILE. SMILE is a community center of sorts. It offers programs for the LGBTQ youth. They help build self-esteem for young LGBTQ members. They teach leadership skills. They help find housing for their members to keep them off the streets. And they offer a variety of classes. They also have discussion groups so kids can vent with peers. For UKEA, this was a loving, safe community of young people just like her. It's here that she met a teen that was just like her in so many ways. Stephanie Thomas was 16 years old and also transitioning from male to female. What did differ for Stephanie? She had a very supportive and loving adoptive family. Stephanie's mom said Stephanie started to identify as trans when she was around 8 or 9 years old, but Stephanie's family never tried to suppress it. They gave Stephanie the room to be who she was. But as supportive as she was, Stephanie's mom could never quite get herself to call Stephanie a she. She also used Stephanie's dead name of Wilbur. And I'm not here to harass Stephanie's mom. I think she's a wonderful woman. She can call Stephanie what she wants. It wasn't long after UKEA and Stephanie's budding friendship that Stephanie's mom became sort of a surrogate mother to UKEA also. Both girls had been bullied mentally and physically so bad at their high schools, they ended up quitting school at the same time. The two teens transitioned together. They became the very best of friends, inseparable, and eventually the two girls moved in together in an apartment in Southeast Washington, D.C. The area that their apartment was located wasn't the safest neighborhood of D.C., but it was somewhat close to Stephanie's mom's home. Living on their own allowed the girls to be independent and provide for themselves. Stephanie's mom wasn't so crazy about Stephanie walking around the area at night, coming home from work or being out with friends, so she bought her daughter a Toyota Celica so she could get around more safely. At least that was the idea behind Stephanie having a car. The night of August 11th, 2002, the teen girls were in an apartment belonging to some friends of theirs. They were just hanging out. About 11:30 p.m., the girls announced that they were going to go to the gas station and pick up some cigarettes, and then they were going to head home. Not one of their friends was sure where the two teen girls actually went. A little after 3 a.m., what was now August 12th, the girls were in Stephanie's Toyota. They were sitting at a stop sign near their apartment on 50th Street and C Street. And as they sat at the stop sign, a black car approached and pulled up beside them. The occupant of the black car sprayed the Toyota with gunfire from a semi-automatic weapon, and then they took off. An eyewitness to the crime saw another car approach, and the driver got out to see if the people in the Toyota were okay. The man nudged Stephanie's shoulder to see if she was still alive. Stephanie let out a small moan. At that moment, the black car sped back like a maniac, and the man that was checking on the girls hopped in his car and he took off in fear. The driver of the black car got out and he pumped more bullets into the Toyota before he fled. The eyewitness called 911. When the EMT and the fire department arrived, they determined that both girls were dead, and they proceeded to pull the girls from the car. It was said Stephanie was pulled out and very disrespectfully allowed to fall out of the car onto her face. Then the EMT used his foot to turn Stephanie over face up. This type of disregard brings me to a car accident that occurred at that very same intersection 7 years and 5 days prior to this incident. It involved a 24-year-old black trans woman named Tyra Hunter. Tyra had transitioned into female at the age of 17 years old, and although she had not had the surgery yet, she was still very much a woman. Tyra was a passenger in a car driven by her friend Tedessa. After the accident, Tedessa's car started to catch fire. When the emergency services with the DC Fire Department arrived, they pulled the women out of the car. This is the same fire department that was summoned to UKEA and Stephanie's incident. Tyra was semi-conscious. One of the EMTs, Adrian Williams, he started to work on Tyra. He used some scissors to cut Tyra's pants off, and then he abruptly stopped, jumped up, and said to co-workers,
"This bitch ain't no girl. It's a Nigeria, and he's got a dick."
Okay, warriors, you know I use Nigeria for that other word that I absolutely detest. EMT Adrian Williams then spent 5 to 7 minutes trading transphobic comments and jokes back and forth with his fellow fire department members. Finally, his supervisor arrived and took over the critical life-saving procedures that were needed to keep Tyra alive long enough to transport her to the hospital. Once Tyra arrived at the hospital, she received the same transphobic treatment by the emergency room staff. One doctor said the victim is black and trans and most likely is HIV positive. I'm not touching it. Untreated, Tyra died of internal bleeding in the emergency room of that hospital an hour and 15 minutes after she arrived. Had a surgeon started to work on her and give her a blood transfusion right then, Tyra had 86% survival rate chances. Tyra's mother, who was a nurse, sued the fire department and the hospital, and she received a $1.7 million wrongful death and medical malpractice settlement. Not one of the EMTs on scene at Tyra's accident were reprimanded. So it seemed UKEA and Stephanie, even post-mortem, were not being treated with any more respect than a living Tyra was treated. UKEA and Stephanie were shot 10 times each in the head and chest. They were buried together and they share a headstone. Police were stumped by the homicide, or chances are they just didn't give a fuck. Years and years went by and a suspect or suspects were never named as the killer. It appeared that UKEA and Stephanie's murder went cold. The girl's file was shoved into a box somewhere and it sat gathering dust for 18 years. A new detective looking at cold cases happened to pull out the teenager's file and look at it again. He found a letter in the file written to the police years ago, and it named the girl's killer. But police back then, they didn't follow up on the letter. Instead, it too just sat in that box. The new investigator on the case tracked down 2 new witnesses, and those witnesses told him that the girls were with Michael Dupree Price the night they died. They said that Michael flipped out when he discovered the girls were trans. With rage in his eyes, he tracked them down to a stop sign near their apartment and he murdered them. It wasn't until last year in 2020, 18 years after UKEA and Stephanie were gunned down, that Michael Dupree Price was finally named in the killing of the two. And as rewarding as that might sound, it's really not. Because Michael Dupree Price, he was also murdered 3 years earlier in 2017. Michael was 36 when he was killed. He would have been 16 years old when he got his hands on a semi-automatic weapon, a black car, and he murdered UKEA and Stephanie. An ear witness is someone who doesn't actually see the crime, but has heard from the perpetrator's own mouth about the crime they committed. An ear witness was also located. Not surprisingly, Michael had done some prison time, and he told a fellow inmate what he had done to the girls when he was a teenager. And the ear witness had some very specific details he knew about the case that was never divulged in public. He said UKEA, Stephanie, and Michael were smoking weed together, and that's when Michael discovered the girls were trans and lost it. I have a feeling that this is just a story that Michael tells that he didn't know the girls were trans, and he tells this story to save face, so his street cred doesn't have him liking trans women. But Stephanie's mother disputes the claims. She says that everyone in the neighborhood knew that the girls were trans, even Michael. Stephanie's mom said that Michael had a thing for Stephanie. She believes that Stephanie and Michael might have had a relationship and it soured that night, and that's why Michael killed the girls. Whichever the motive, 2 beautiful young lives were taken from the world. UKEA and Stephanie, rest in power. Love you, Rainbow Warriors. Remember, it's not a crime to be gay, unless you're a murderer.